Like, are you looking at printing like half a billboard, or what are you looking at doing? Your eye's only going to see so much.
This is like the cheap Wish version of Wrath of Khan that like you're watching at the local high school.
And we're back with another episode of the Two Sour Show. I'm Brian.
And I'm Daine.
What's been happening?
Oh, man. It has been quite the time over here. We are in full baby swing. So it's been...
I was going to say, it's...
It's right there. The time is vastly approaching. My wife has never been this pregnant before. My son was born. Had already been out for 2 weeks at this point in time. So this is the most pregnant she has ever been, and probably the most pregnant she will ever be every single day, because we're stopping at 2. That's it. Factory's closed. Done. We're good. One for each of us. We've done our job for humanity. We're replacing ourselves. One boy, one girl. That's it. We're done. That's it. That's all she wrote. So we're in baby mode. So it's kind of put a damper on a bunch of other stuff that that I've wanted to catch up on. Like I still haven't watched the Godzilla show on Netflix. That's been on my list of things to catch up.
I started it.
Is it good?
So far I'm only about an episode, or like I got full episode in, started watching the second one, and then got sidetracked with other stuff.
Okay.
So I'll probably start it over again.
Gotcha.
But I enjoyed what I saw with the first episode.
That's good. That's a good sign.
It's
That's a really
definitely
good sign.
feeling like it's going to be a slow build to Godzilla.
Oh, that's kind of what Pacific... I tried watching Pacific Rim Black or whatever it was, and I got like 3 episodes in, and it just kind of fell flat. It was very like, hey, here's a giant robot. And
Well, but they are putting stuff in there. Like basically, the first episode starts a fight between a Jet Jaguar and Rodan.
Oh, okay, cool. So
it's not like you're getting nothing. It's not like you're watching something that you're like, this could have been completely unrelated. Why did they throw Godzilla in here?
Yeah.
So, there is. It's at least giving you that universe. It is getting you in there.
Yeah, that's good.
So, I mean, I watched the first episode. I enjoyed it. I'll
Okay.
try and grind through the rest of it.
That's on my list. I finished all the Gundam stuff that was on Netflix. So I was like most of the way through everything. The last one I
don't even
watched
know where
was...
to start with those.
Oh, so Primer's Guide. This is a great example. So on Netflix, they've got the three Mobile Suit Gundam movies. That's pretty much the whole Mobile Suit Gundam series compressed into 3 movies. Like they cut out a lot of... There's a lot of filler. Not like Dragon Ball Z level of filler on those, but there was a lot of filler. So
Well, that's a lot of why I have trouble with, like, especially traditional TV shows. Like these Netflix shows that only go like 5-6 episodes are like perfect for me.
Oh yeah.
Because like a standard, like when it first came out, I was really into The Flash, but 25-hour long episodes.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, there's so much filler in that long a season that I'm just like,
oh yeah, dude. Some of that stuff is bad. It's just
like to me,
bloated.
5 to 10 is like the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it's a half an hour show instead of an hour, or 45 minutes instead of an hour, even better.
Yeah, totally. Like the sweet spot I would say nowadays for TV shows, 6 to 8 episodes, 45 minutes long. Right there, you get enough.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, and you're not grinding in filler. It's moving something along. You don't have like a filler episode. You don't have like Stranger Things season 2. Great example of that. The one like side episode where 11 goes off.
Oh, yeah.
Total filler. You're like, we didn't need this. This was garbage. That's the epitome of a filler episode.
Here I am complaining about binging as a guy who watches like 12 hours of pro wrestling every week.
At least it's new content every week.
And especially with like AEW, I watch pretty much religiously.
Yeah, but they're doing a lot of new. It's a whole new league, so they're building everything from the ground up. They have to build a universe. So
God, this last episode was so good.
That's good. Is it like
now?
I know there's been. We kind of talked a little bit about signings and stuff. Like, are they signing them just to like have them floating in the ether? Or are they like actually putting them to use? Or like how's that all working with those guys?
Oh well, I mean, so here's the way. I'll kind of do a brief overview of how each of the big companies, the big 3, as I view them, stateside anyway, because obviously there's New Japan, there's like your tiers. So you have your indie stuff, like what I go to every month up in Everett. That's your like indie, just local live show. You go see it. Maybe they're on independent wrestling TV. Maybe they're on YouTube. That kind of stuff.
Okay.
Above that is like your Ring of Honor, which is still independent, but like they have a TV deal with Sinclair, so they do have shows on TV. But they're just kind of late night. I think that airs over up here at like 1 a.m.
Oh, okay, yeah.
on like Saturday night.
Oh yeah. Party hours.
And it's good stuff, but it is definitely that kind of lower tier. And I love Ring of Honor. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to slam them. I'm just saying in the hierarchy of pro wrestling on TV in the United States. Kind of above that, because there are places that do where you can watch New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of above that, but it's a little more niche. Like their production value, I would say, is kind of inching up to being more on par with like your WWE or AEW, AAA and CMLL in Mexico. So like your big companies. But stateside, they're still a very like wrestling nerd. Whoop,
Gotcha. Okay.
Your casual fans aren't watching that, and that's where you get to what most of your casual wrestling fans, to a little more hardcore watching your Impact, your AEW, WWE, and Impact just has Impact. Like they just have the one show. That's it. And they've gotten markedly better from where they were just a few years ago.
That's good.
Like they're doing some really wild stuff with the partnership that Tony Khan has kind of brokered between them and New Japan. They got Bullet Club guys coming into Impact and all sorts of crazy stuff. Now we get to AEW and WWE. WWE has NXT, and then those guys are supposed to be being built to Raw and SmackDown.
Gotcha. Okay, so they're kind of like,
but it's a very insular thing. Now AEW, they have the main show Dynamite. Next month, their new show starts, and the name's escaping me for the moment. And then you have AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation, which are their YouTube shows.
Okay.
And they have brought in all this indie talent. People wonder like, oh man, why is their roster so big? Well, the thing about AEW is they don't have to pay people nearly as much as what WWE has, because AEW lets their guys go and do indie dates.
Smart move.
So they can go and make all this money on the indies. Like Lance Archer is going to be at one of the shows up here for Defy. So they can bring in a lot more independent people. They bring in indie guys to keep it fresh for kind of what we used to call jobbers.
But kind of the fill-in kind of guys.
They're usually given their moment to shine. I mean, sometimes they get completely squashed, but usually they get a moment or two.
Gotcha. A little moment in the sun.
So it's like a really good way to kind of keep things fresh. And then if somebody gets way over, you can always sign them. Like recently, they just signed Thunder Rosa, who was signed to Billy Corgan's wrestling promotion, the NWA. And they have a working relationship.
I totally forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. And so they have a working relationship. So Thunder Rosa was jumping on to Dynamite a lot, especially, during the pandemic, because NWA wasn't doing anything. And they just had her come in, would wrestle, would do some championship matches, things like that. And they even had her go over to Impact a couple times. But they just signed her to a long-term deal at Dynamite for AEW.
Nice.
So they have a very robust system of bringing in indie people, letting them build. And, some get big contracts at the end of it, some don't. But because they have the freedom to come in and work and then go work indie dates, it's a win-win for pretty much all involved. It's a win-win for the show because you can keep things fresh. It's a win-win for them because they aren't locked in to, oh man, I wasn't on Dynamite this week, so my paycheck's going to be less. They can go wrestle on Dark on YouTube and then the rest of the month blow out 20 indie dates and make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So,
Smart move.
whereas with WWE, they're locked in. Like, that's it. You are doing this and this only, nothing else.
They
So if
basically
you
have
don't get any
exclusivity
TV
contracts
time,
where that's it.
you don't
sign
make as
it.
much money.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Unless you're selling a shit ton of merch, but if you're not on TV, you're not selling merch. So
Yeah. Now, obviously, the big news that everybody is going crazy about is the rumored signing of not just Daniel Bryan to AEW, but CM Punk.
and to
Now-
that, like my take on that is Punk is he's just rallying, he's just beating the drums of like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like how many years has he been out of WWE, and how many times over that same amount of years has it been rumored he's gonna come back? Like he's just like
So-
he's chicken littling it. He's saying the sky is falling, and that's all it is. He's drumming up like personal brand info. Like, I mean,
So
for
here's
me,
here's
it's
the
just-
thing. Yeah, well, here's the thing with this one. One, the Daniel Bryan stuff is the most legit because that they even have tamped down a rumored start date for him, which is their big show end of September in New York.
Okay.
Plus, there's circumstantial evidence with that. Daniel Bryan's been pulled completely out of 2K22. Like, there's actually a memo sent from WWE to 2K to like delete him out of the game.
Oh, like a day one patch kind of thing of like he's not in there, he doesn't exist to us anymore, kind of deal.
Yeah, basically, like they're still building the game, and WWE comes out of nowhere and goes, delete him.
Oh, that's a pretty telling sign right there. So
Yeah. Two, one of the guys who's breaking a lot of this news is this guy, Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful, who has been pretty much spot on. Like all of the releases, he's pretty much been like on top of them. Like he'll be like, oh, release is coming. And then like
there
2-3 hours later, he's tweeting out a list just like this person, this person, this person, this person. Like the
Damn.
dude, as far as scoops go, this guy's got some good sources. So, the Daniel Bryan thing is sounding very, 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 very legit.
Gotcha.
Now, CM Punk. I have heard this rumor every few months like clockwork.
For how many
Like
years?
you could set your watch on it.
Yeah.
Now, that said, again, this rumor comes from Sean Ross Sapp this time, as opposed to just rando dirt sheet number 344 going, rumor is CM Punk to AEW confirmed. And he's like, from what he's hearing from his sources is that the talks have happened. He isn't 100% that pen has been put to paper, but all signs point to CM Punk to AEW debuting at All Out in Chicago, his hometown, which is currently a sold out show even before he said, even before the rumor started.
Right. And I mean that
Now,
I
as
don't
with any
know.
CM Punk rumor, I will always parse it as see it when I'll believe it when I see it.
exactly.
Because like I said, you could set your watch by these.
It's pretty much
but
once every 2-3 months of
given-
CM Punk's coming back. It's just like okay.
But with this, it's given the source. Like I said, if it was any other dirt sheet person, just half of the wrestling news sites that I look at with their clickbaity dirt sheet nonsense,
Hmm.
I wouldn't give it two thoughts. I'd just be like, bleh.
Right.
But Sean has been so right on so many. Like his track record is so good that I'm like,
Now the thing with that though too, here's the other
like I'm.
flip devil's advocate. Here's the other flip side of
Mhm.
that too. He's got Daniel Bryan stuff. He pretty much nails that on the head. If he's 98% accurate, he's got that 2% margin of error, which is we'll just call the CM Punk margin of error. He might be again. This is devil's advocate. This is because I have no hat in the ring on this one. If he's just
Mhm.
throwing that in the ring to get additional clicks for a site, for additional just to say, hey, here's where it's at. Here's what I'm seeing. This is where I'm at. But it also could pump. If I don't know if he's plugging his site or plugging his merch or anything else that he's doing on there. It could just be, hey, here's where I'm at. The catching the trending wave of CM Punk on social media, getting in there, getting his name in the ring, so people click on it, and go, oh, okay, cool. Then they'll look at his other prediction and say, oh, well, he was right here, he was right here, right here. Oh, he missed this one. It's kind of one of those deals to throw his hat in the, just to get his name out there. We're guilty of it. That's what we do with certain topics that we've done. I've done it on my YouTube stuff. Everyone does it. That's part of what we do. That's what you do as musicians too. You try to catch a wave to throw yourself in there and hope that you catch on in this day and age of viral marketing and viral everything. It's not that he needs to go viral. He's already pretty well established, it sounds like. But at the same time, to get, the unassuming in there, the casual fan who goes, oh, CM Punk, CM Punk. And he just rides the
And
wave on that.
right, well, and that's why I always like take the like CM Punk return with a grain of salt, and like I'll believe it when I see it. Now the other thing though that gives this some air of like, oh, maybe this is legit this time, is that a report came out today that I was reading over on one of the websites I read, SE Scoops, that because of this basically being like a done deal with Punk and Daniel Bryan going to AEW, that WWE is in a panic to get Braun pulled back in.
Didn't they let him go like last month or 2 months ago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it.
Yeah, they're because they're afraid, like, because that's the thing. That was why Braun was so shocking, was because Braun was still super over.
Yeah. He was
So
pretty much
they're
through,
like
he had the
now,
green light to basically go, hey, let's get you as far as we
Mhm.
can, as high as we can, kind of thing. So
Yeah. So now, apparently, according to this report, they're in a panic to get him re-signed because they're afraid of him also getting poached by AEW.
you're right. Which, if AEW was smart, they should have already put a contract in his hand saying, unless he has a non-compete somewhere like that.
Well, we don't. Well, they got a non-compete, but they can talk to people. They just can't show up anywhere.
True. So
They can negotiate. They just can't actually.
pen to paper kind of deal.
Right. That was why when Aleister Black jumped ship, it was so shocking because it was only 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
But WWE messed up and didn't change his contract, so he still had the NXT contract with the 30-day clause instead of the Raw SmackDown one with the 90-day.
Gotcha. So yeah.
So, but that's where, but and I'm sure that was, when Aleister Black jumped over, because he was done with his 30-day clause. I don't think Zelina, his wife, was done with her 90-day clause because she was on the main roster. And all of a sudden, she was like shortly after he came back, Zelina was brought back in.
Gotcha.
And so it was like, oh, they're kind of panicking.
Yeah, and that's doable because think about it. They kind of like, if we go back on the old shows, we kind of were like, oh, they're gonna slow play AEW and just figure it's a war of attrition. They're just gonna be like, we're WWE. What are you gonna do? Kind of deal. And now it seems like that
Well, I think the thing
AEW
is,
stuck
though,
around longer than they thought they were, so they're panicking across the board.
well, AEW almost hit Raw's ratings last week. They did 1.18 million this week.
Which is super
Raw,
solid.
Raw had a good week this week because it was the first Raw with fans, so they did like 1.9. But the week prior, I think it was like 1.4.
Yeah, so they're within scraping range of getting it. So
yeah.
it's so hard to say though, just because like if WWE goes back on and sits on their ass of like story writing, which from what you've said, it sounds like they've kind of like done the super like, hey, it's really good, then it just falls off, and then it's really good, then it falls off again kind of number. It's
Oh
hard
well,
to
I can tell you the
say.
moment I checked out of SmackDown tonight was Big E was in the ring. He won Money in the Bank, and I love Big E. I love the New Day. They're one of my favorite set of wrestlers, let alone teams. But Big E, Kofi, and Xavier Woods are three of my favorite wrestlers. Period. Um, and I mean Woods, I've been following since TNA when he was Consequences Creed. Um, like he'd dress up like Apollo Creed with the red, white, and blues.
The big top hat kind of
And
number.
this was back when Jay Lethal was Black Machismo, and he does like a spot on Macho Man. So he
Nice.
dressed up as Macho Man. So you had Xavier Woods, Austin Creed, who with his gimmick, and then you had Jay Lethal as Black Machismo. Oh my God, that was so good.
Nice.
But no, I love those guys. And Big E's in the ring and he's doing his thing, and then Apollo Crews comes out, and I have been watching those two wrestle each other over and over and over for months. I'm done with it. I'm bored with it. Move on.
They're beating a dead horse
So the
storyline,
minute
basically.
that Apollo can, I like Apollo Crews. I don't necessarily care for his new heel gimmick and like making him talk with an accent and all that, but
Like when the Undertaker went biker taker.
yeah, not quite like that.
Oh, okay.
It just
Still.
he's a heel character. He's playing up a whole like Nigerian prince thing. Like
Oh.
it's not terrible, but it's just kind of like bleh.
It's not cringy level of bad, but definitely going, really? This is what
Yeah,
you went with?
I think they could do better with it, but that's just me.
Right.
But no, like the minute he came out, I was just like, I'm not watching this over and over again.
Right. I saw this 3
Like
weeks ago. and I
I'll
saw it a week
fast forward
before
through
that.
it later.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll fast forward through it later.
And that sucks. I mean, that's from my outsider's point of view. That's like the general consensus I get on everything WWE is that they do the same 10 matches like every single week.
There are YouTubers who have checked completely out. Like they won't watch Raw or SmackDown.
I
they'll
don't blame
just-
them. Like
those
I get burned out
wrestlers.
on that too. I mean,
One of
it
the
sucks.
wrestlers who got released was doing an interview. It was like, dude, I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch my own product that I was in. Like I would just watch Wrestle Talk recaps in 5 minutes to know what was going on the show, but I couldn't even bring myself to watch it because it was so bad. And I'm like,
that sucks.
oh, ooh.
That sucks when your own
Ooh.
ex talent's like, yeah, this is garbage. Like,
Yeah, so and I mean, and especially comparative to like I look at, Raw was okay, it was decent. Cena's back, he was doing good stuff. SmackDown, like I said, I checked out, but look at Dynamite, and like Dynamite had Moxley and Archer for the New Japan IWGP or IWJP title in a Texas death match.
yes.
Like,
I
yeah.
have no idea what any of that means.
that was their main event, and it was fan freaking tastic.
See, when you say
have
Texas
them-
Deathmatch, I imagine two guys dueling with giant hats on, and instead of drawing guns, they're drawing rattlesnakes at each other and like they're big cowboy.
Oh
boots.
no, it was like,
That's Texas Deathmatch to me.
forks.
That's the extent of what I know.
You're talking forks to the head.
Gotcha. Like
barbed
backyard
wire.
wrestling, like
Yeah, barbed wire
halogen,
boards.
halogen big
Mhm.
tubes, and
Oh, that's gonna
crazy
be
shit.
I'm gonna say that's gonna be next week because that's the other thing, and they're doing stuff like AEW is doing stuff like this. Next week, they're bringing in Nick fucking Gage, Mr. MDK, King of the Death Matches, and he's gonna fight Jericho.
Oh,
And Jericho's
Jericho and
bringing in his painmaker gimmick from New Japan.
Oh, lovely. Jericho
And
is
it's
a
like-
50-year-old who's like
Jericho's been doing good stuff
oh, that's good.
since he's left WWE. Like he has been as vital as ever before.
That's good because I like a little bit. I'd follow, I'd follow Fozzy and then follow his stuff here and there. Like it just seemed like he was trying the same gimmick from when he was like 25, now at like 45 kind of deal, like that kind of number, like the WWE days kind of thing, and then the WWF stuff. from that kind of
Hmm.
like he was always the same character. He never like evolved past what he was kind of deal. But if he's
Well,
doing
but he
good
was in
stuff now, that's good.
WWE. There's only so much he could do, and I mean, he did the best he could with that. But you look at what he did in New Japan when he went over there. You look at what he's done in AEW from Le Champion, where he was the first, um, the first champion, and the whole little bit of the bubbly gimmick that turned into a huge meme, to when they first started beating WWE in the 18 to 24,
1825.
the
Yeah,
the
that
big
demographic.
demo that everyone goes after when they were beating NXT in that. He was calling himself the demo god. Um, and the dude's been on fire.
That's good.
Um,
That's good
you
for
know,
everybody. I mean, good storyline,
hmm
good matches. That's huge for everybody. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you tune in for every week. You don't tune in to watch the same five guys fight 5 times
yeah.
a week.
So him playing, um, or him fighting Nick Gage next week is going to be insane.
Should be
I
good.
mean, they've
Blood
got
potential.
Sting
Is,
out
is
there.
there potential for blood and guts
Oh
flying
God,
everywhere?
yes.
Not guts necessarily, but
Oh
blood and
yeah,
chunks.
no. You bring in Nick Gage, there's going to be blood.
Oh, okay. Well,
There will be blood. You don't bring in Nick Gage and go, hey, why don't you lay off the color? Like, no, that's going to be rough.
you bring him out when you have to change
That is
the mat cover.
That is going to be rough. That is going to be a rough damn match. But no, they've just been on fire with everything they've been doing, and they got Sting loving what he's doing, and you can see that Sting is having fun. Whereas when Sting went to WWE, they basically had him go 0-2 and almost break his neck,
Yee.
almost ended his career. Where now he's back in and wrestling and having fun, and it shows, and you can see that Sting is having the time of his life. That's why they're getting these guys like Big Show over to do commentary, and Mark Henry over doing commentary and stuff, and helping out the guys in the back and all this, because it's revitalizing these guys
That's good.
and it's helping the younger guys.
Oh
you
yeah, I mean,
know?
when you have happy veterans, I mean, that's gonna just breed excitement, and they're gonna want to share their experience with the new guys. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the people that they have just in as either managers or commentary. I mean, the wealth of knowledge. They just brought in Chavo Guerrero.
oh yeah, I forgot
You've
of-
got
no, Eddie
Jake
died. Eddie died. I was
Yeah,
like, how'd he
Eddie
die?
died.
Yeah,
Chavo, yeah.
Chavo's still alive. Eddie died.
Yeah, so you have Chavo Guerrero. You have Dean Malenko. You've got Jake the Snake. Obviously,
he
you have
died too.
Sting. No, not Jake.
Oh,
No, he's still around.
gotcha.
DDP comes in and helps from time to time. Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. So 2 of the 4 horsemen.
Damn.
Obviously, you've got JR, Taz, Big Show, Mark Henry, and all these guys, for the most part, are taking these kind of side roles, whether it's managers or commentators. Sting's really the only one who does any wrestling, but even then, he's usually just Darby Allin's kind of buddy.
No, there you go.
And they bring in people with a purpose, and they don't just bring them in for a cheap pop, and that's kind of the nice thing.
Right. They don't bring him in to put people in seats. They bring him in for like actual like this is what it's not like bringing in The Rock in
Well-
WWE. The Rock doesn't come in to wrestle. He brings in to bring in.
Well, they don't bring him in just because the ratings take a shit. WWE had Keith Lee come back in, only to have him get just demolished and squashed by Bobby Lashley, so he could set up Lashley versus Goldberg.
Goldberg's still doing his stuff. Still, after retiring like
He's a-
4
he's a
times.
part-timer. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Hang on,
we're
wait.
gonna get
Are they gonna do
freaking-
Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar 5 or 6 or
No,
whatever?
they're doing Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg for the belt.
Oh well,
And nobody wants
hang
to
on.
see it.
Let me set this up because this sounds feasible. They're good because if ratings keep taking the nosedive that they're doing, they're gonna have Lashley versus Goldberg. Goldberg's gonna beat Lashley because he's Goldberg, and then Brock Lesnar's gonna show up out of nowhere and be like, "Oh,
God,
look
I
at me.
hope not.
And
I do not want Lesnar Goldberg
oh
3
well,
or 4 or whatever they're on now. No,
let's
God,
fast forward to
no.
2022, and here we are. We'll be talking
Some of
about
the
Lesnar Goldberg 17.
worst goddamn matches I've seen is Lesnar Goldberg. Because
But
I
I mean,
don't
look
think
at it
those
this
guys
way. I mean,
really care much.
look at WWE's track record for what they've done. When their ratings take a shit, they bring in a big person just to
Yeah.
bring in ratings. I mean,
No,
they,
no, I
they
know.
can't really go back to The
That's why.
Rock.
That's the only reason Cena's back.
Exactly. He got done
And
promoting
I like
Fast
John
9, and
Cena.
China smacked him in the hand, and they went, "Hey, we need somebody big who's got big star power. Who else can we call?" You
Yeah.
know, Roman Reigns is
Yeah,
kind of
I
like
don't.
whatever now.
Yeah, I don't see AEW ever doing that. Like they don't
No,
bring people in just for that cheap like
cheap gimmick.
ratings
Yeah.
boost.
I mean, I kind of thought AEW was doing that when they signed, all the older guys. You had Sting and Big Show and Mark Henry and those guys. But that was my take was, oh, they're bringing people in just for my generation to go, oh, hey, I grew up watching those guys on WCW, to bring them in just for the wow factor, because they're all old. They're like 50 something now, and in that line of work, 50 is like just out to pasture. You're done. But to everything you're saying, how they bring them in as like commentators and kind of working on it in the back, that's a great sign, because it's getting that next generation in. And it's getting breathing new life into the business, and it's also sharing the experience of, hey, I did this back when it was the 90s, back when chairs hurt, back when the mat was was plywood and MDF and a couple springs underneath kind of deal. I'm assuming that's what it was back in the day, but
Yeah.
with safety feet.
Well, anyway, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if the CM Punk stuff and the Daniel Bryan stuff's true, because AEW's already killing it. So
yeah, so I hear that. But speaking of killing it, something came out today you were telling me about that I forgot about, that is being murdered on Rotten Tomatoes, which kind of goes back to our Netflix talk of it's Netflix, right? He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Yeah. Netflix. Yeah. I forgot that came out entirely, and I used to watch that as a kid and stuff, but apparently the rest
it's good. I'm 2 episodes in. It's really solid. Good storytelling. Good like balance of nostalgia and update. I really like it. But also I'm not a man-child who cries every time, a woman takes a lead in the content I watch.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love the internet, because, hey, if we don't like it, we're going to get mad about it. My 35-year-old self that lives in my mother's basement doesn't like it when my favorite childhood show doesn't have my favorite childhood hero. And, oh, wait, what?
The funny part is it's like when I see half these guys and half of them are younger than I am, I'm like, bitch, I grew up on this shit. Like when it was new.
Right? I watched this thing when it was one of those. It was one on it was on the 4s, not on the 2s like they animate it now, which it's where it's super rough and they go and then they hold it and then they move and then they hold it and they move and they talk around it, and it looks kind of like my camera, how it's all very like every other frame kind of number.
It's just you have a bunch of people who it was leaked, and I guess spoiler warning, but this happens in the first episode, so not that spoilery, but still spoilers. No, it was leaked that He-Man dies and you're following Teela. Now, the only thing that ever leaked was some bits and pieces of the first half of the season. And having watched episode 1 and 2, it's painfully obvious he's not dead.
But the internet said he dies.
We talked about this when we were talking about the High Republic stuff. These people don't actually watch the shit. They read a leak piece or watch a preview, and then they make an immediate judgment call that doesn't align with their personal politics, or they automatically blanket it as SJW keyboard warrior stuff, and then they just dunk on it over and over again because it gets some clicks.
Yep.
They obviously clearly don't watch it. They don't watch it. They're
not paying attention to it. They're not reading the articles.
Yeah.
They're just angry incels basically saying, "Oh, you can't change my childhood." And it's like, we're not.
The thing is
get over it.
Well, I mean, I don't care. I don't care as long as the story is good.
Yes.
They hated the new Star Trek stuff on Discovery. I watched all the way through the first season. I enjoyed it. I haven't gotten around to watching the second season because I'm terrible at watching TV. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was good. It got a little fillery, but that's part of why I'm bad at TV shows because I get to filler episodes and I just kind of go,
Yeah, that's what Walking Dead lost me on was filler half seasons.
I couldn't make it through the third episode of Walking Dead. I was just like, I don't care about this guy's marriage. I don't like. There's enough drama with the whole like undead apocalypse. I don't need the drama of his wife is stooping his old partner. I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't need the soap opera part.
They held a
Like, I
special
do
place in
not
my
care.
heart. I read those when I was at radio school. I'd read those between
No, I like the comic
airdrops and
book.
stuff.
I
Yeah,
just,
comics were
I
great.
just,
And I was like, oh, cool, AMC's doing it. And like the first season hooked me on. Okay, cool, they're doing a pretty good job. There's a little bit of for TV kind of stuff in there. And then second season was good. And then like they hit the prison, and I was like, okay, cool. So much stuff happens. Then they just like the show just went, hey, here's the prison stuff. Stretch, and just that's where I was like, this sucks. So I finished that, and then I think I got to the cannibal camp, something like that, and then I called it good. No, I quit at Negan. That's when it got really fillery. Like I kind of
yeah,
zoned out. Yeah, I quit. Like Jeffrey Dean Morgan's great. I really liked it, but just everything they did with him was just
Well,
like,
I just, it's like the same people who complain about the fact that they changed one character in Dune to a woman. And it's like, part
oh
of
yeah, I heard
Kynes
about that.
is
It's like, who cares?
not even, like, who cares?
They're in there for like
Who
10 minutes,
cares?
like collectively, and it's like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and it was just like the first.
You
Yeah,
know,
they're not
yeah,
even
you
there for
should
like the first third of the book.
have.
It's like, who cares? And even then, it's a role that, yeah, it's just it's a dude in the book, but it's not vital that he's a dude. It's not like, oh, he has to do this. He has to
Yeah,
do
it's
this or
not
this.
vital to the character.
No, it's just
It doesn't
filler. It doesn't
influence
matter.
anything that he says or does.
Yeah, it's like they flipped.
But
the Duke
again,
to be
you
a
know,
woman. That'd be like, wait, you can't do that. But I mean, yeah, his character.
oh yeah, no, if you turn Paul into a woman, like,
Yeah.
whoa, hey,
That defeats
hold
the
up.
entire purpose of Dune. So,
Right. Yeah, you flip flop Paul and his sister, like,
yeah, and all yeah, you just
then I'm gonna side eye you, but
yeah. But yeah, it's
changing
stuff like
one
that.
one side character, I don't care.
Dumb. But yeah, it's small
But
stuff.
no, the He-Man stuff, like I said, I've gone through the first two episodes, and I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good. I like the take that they're going with it. I like that it's a whole thing on like magic and technology, and it just has this great kind of old school 80s fantasy animation vibe to it.
Nice.
Really good stuff. I highly recommend it.
Nice. I was curious at it. Like I'd seen the trailer.
That's weird. I think there's only like 5 episodes.
Oh, that's perfect. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
Loki-ish. I was like, because Loki's 6 episodes. You caught that, right?
Yeah. We finished Loki this weekend. Super good.
Nice. Yeah. I railed on Loki for what 2-3 episodes straight, going, "Oh, this isn't going to be nothing. I don't know why I'm going to watch it." Now, having seen the whole thing, I'm like, "Oh, okay. This is important." So, I mean,
If you are one of the few people who haven't watched it, a little bit of spoilery
Yes.
stuff here, so skip over.
yes,
1, 2, 3, 4. I really like the way they handled Kang.
me too. Like the way
I
that it was.
love that character. I love the way they did that. It's not a take I ever would have thought to take with him.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
a fresh
God,
take.
I was like just glued to the way that performance was done and the humor of it. Like, and like you couldn't really tell, like, okay, is he full of shit? Is he telling the truth? Like, I thought that was good.
Yeah, like I initially thought it was going to be like another Loki variant. I thought it was going to be like Tom Hiddleston, like doing it dual role kind of thing. That was my initial take. I'm like, oh, end of time. He got there. He already did it because he won kind of thing. That was
Yeah.
how I was going to think. And then he was talking, and I'm like, wait a minute. Then he's like, oh, in one variant I'm this, and in one variant I'm a conqueror. And I kind of went, oh, we're doing it this way.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I mean, I think one of the best moments out of it was Richard E. Grant as classic Loki.
Oh, that was super. I love
manifesting
that whole, like,
Asgard.
Yeah, that whole
Like,
episode was
he
so
was
well
so
done.
good.
Yeah,
Like, I wish they hadn't killed old Loki.
I know. That would have been great. Now, one thing too that the internet in all of its wisdom did, they took the end of WandaVision when Wanda gets her powers and lined it up with Loki and when Kang's talking. And so there's a
Hmm.
scene that's the same point in the show. It's like 27 minutes and some odd change, where he literally goes like they synced it up and it lines up to where Wanda gets her powers, and then he sits there and goes, "Oh, we're in something new here. We're in a new spot." And then when he drops
Huh.
the little icon is when what's her face, Catherine Hahn falls, and it's
Hmm.
right there, kind of like almost in sync with each other. Like he drops it, it hits the desk, and she
Hmm.
hits there, and you go,
I'll have to look that up.
"Oh, yeah." I'll link it on
I hadn't seen that. I'll have to
I'll
look
link
that
it on the
up.
page. I saw that and I went, "Oh, is this going to stem back from Wanda, or is this going to stem from him doing this stuff kind of in the future, kind of cool, like lining up with itself?" But and all the variants, did she like when she got those powers? Did she merge like
Hmm.
variants of everything else now too? Because variants
Well,
are a
she's
thing
a
now. So
yeah. Well, and she's a nexus point, so
exactly. So that's all kind of
yeah, it's gonna be
everything.
interesting to see how they tie it all together in um,
Doctor Strange,
Multiverse of
the
Madness. Yeah.
multiverse is going to be that movie is going to be the either the biggest step in the
Oh, it's
MCU
gonna be
or it's going to
insane. I mean,
fail
that's
miserably. That's either
well,
it's there's no in between on this one.
dude,
It's there's
well,
huge stakes in
it's
this movie.
gonna be nuts. They brought in Sam Raimi. It's gonna be absolutely bat crap crazy.
Yeah, so because you've got Wanda in there who I don't know if she's going to be good or bad or just kind of in between. You've got Doctor Strange, obviously it's his movie, but then you've also got like after that you've got Spider-Man and all those, and then you've got Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantum Mania. So kind of going in that whole everything's like
Yeah.
around itself because they said the quantum realm is basically like a diverging point from all the variants of everything there too and all the different multiverses. So it's kind of like how are they gonna like get this? Like my mind's blown from what Loki did to the whole series because I said for the longest time it doesn't matter. He has no implications. He's not part of the MCU anymore. He's dead. Now here I am eating my freaking shoe because
Hmm.
holy shit. So yeah, no, Loki was so well done. Like I'm so glad. Like WandaVision and Loki are like tied for like favorite shows so far. And now like the What If show being next, now it's
Hmm.
kind of going, is it a what if or this like showing the different variants now that could have been created that Kang's going to influence and pull through. So that's going to be like the other big thing in the back of my mind going, is this actually going to be a thing that they're going to reference from in future stuff from the what if that they just got it there? Or is this going to be solely something else? Or is this going to be even they're going to have Kang narrate it as, hey, what if in this universe that I saw this and what if in this universe this happened? Kind of stuff like that. So like with Kang
It's
doing that,
actually yeah. I will see. It's
yeah.
actually got me curious to see what they're going to do with this new phase of Marvel movies. Whereas before I was kind of fatigued from it all. But if they're going with this cosmic weirdness, sign me up. I'm ready.
Yeah, Loki like re-sparked my curiosity at it. I was with you. We were both burnt out on him, and like in the Eternals, we were just like, whatever, it's okay. These bunch of pretty faces. But now it's like, if they're gonna go goofy and go crazy and off the wall with this,
Oh yeah.
sure, I'm in. Let's do it. I don't care. Let's go crazy. Let's go off the wall because they're not afraid of making money anymore. They've made how many billions of dollars
Well,
off it?
it's
They have spare money to burn on it. So
oh yeah. Well, with the way streaming is now, we'll be able to watch most of these when they actually come out because whether you're paying for the access or a lot of these now are coming up for sale right away.
yeah.
But I mean, you know, at this point, you know, because now what Netflix is looking at getting into like streaming video games.
Yeah, they have pulled apart the Stadia basically and figured out what Stadia did right and what Stadia did wrong, which was 80% wrong and 20% right. Yeah, that's which is a weird take to look at everything because like if you thought about in the past when you bought a DVD, when you bought a VHS, when you bought a CD, it's like yeah, you have ownership of that because it's yours, it's in your hands. But now, like you
Hmm.
were saying, streaming, it's you don't. There's no physical copies. There's no like even PS5 now. They have a discless version. That's all you download to your hard drive. But if they say, hey, that
No, I know
license is
that's the
gone,
one that I'll probably end up getting whenever they have enough games that I want to actually play.
right? Which is
Well, I mean, I look now. I like, you know, I got the Series X more for the power. If the Series X and the Series S had been the same power, but disc based versus non disc based, I probably would have gone with the Series S.
yeah, same.
But, you know, that brings up kind of an interesting question. And I was thinking about this because used to have massive collections of DVDs and CDs and all that, and physical video games. Yeah, I've since sold them all off, and it's just kind of like, wow. We're really kind of in that phase where ownership of entertainment is kind of falling away.
Yeah, totally. It's a weird dichotomy of entertainment
Well,
itself,
there's
especially like coming from a musician's point of view too. Like as a
mhm,
musician, it's like, yeah, that's my work. But if you look at record contracts, you never owned your work. You just merely were creating it for the record company to use,
right.
and you never owned it. Now it's kind of bled over into every other medium of of movies, of music, of games. You're just basically renting time. You're buying unlimited usage to it. But if they say, hey, that's it, we're done, we're pulling it, poof, gone. You're 40, 50, 60,
Right.
80 bucks. You got your money's worth out of it, hopefully, but you don't have that ability. It's not like,
Well,
classic
and you see
games.
that especially with gaming.
Oh God, yes.
Movies is a little different, but and music too. I mean, for the most part, I haven't heard any movies kind of going away or music going away after format change on device or something like that.
Oh, I have. I can't find my
Um,
old band stuff on iTunes anymore. I used to be on iTunes. All the old Amazon stuff was there, and I had it downloaded from there. Like I do not
huh.
own a single version of my last two releases. I did Here to Stay or Push because I had them digitally. I downloaded them digitally and I had them through iTunes. And then when everything fell apart and the Orchard basically what fell apart and they dropped us, they pulled it off and it's not there anymore. I don't have it. So that's something.
Hmm.
It's my own work that I've done that I was sold.
Right.
I was part of creator of that I've done that I don't
Now,
have anymore.
now, I mean, I have, obviously there's lots of albums and movies and things that are out of print. But I think it's more the perils of ownership in the era of digital, where they're trying to get ownership kind of out of the way. I think is probably the most clear with video games.
Oh yeah.
And we've talked about this before with the backwards compatibility thing, but I think in this context, it really kind of crystallizes the issue that I have with a lot of that is the fact that go find these old NES games to play on a modern system. Most of them you can't. Go find, you know, original Xbox games. There's a few on backwards compatibility, but there's a lot that aren't.
Yeah.
A
Exactly.
good chunk are not. PS5, unless the games are uploaded to PS Now, you can't. There's plenty of PS2 games that I never got a chance to play. PS1 games, a ton of games I never got a chance to play. But I can't, unless I hunt down a working PS1 or PS2, I can't go and play those games. And even then, you're paying ridiculous overmarked collector prices. So there's no real feasible way to play a lot of stuff. And don't get me started on old arcade games. Like there are arcade games that are just lost to time because you have to, the Popeye arcade game that Nintendo put out. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have to then now apparently, even though and this is a weird thing about the licensing stuff, you have to now relicense a game or a property for a game that you made 40 years ago just to put that game onto a new system.
Which is it's so backwards. But yeah, it's content
Which to
ownership.
me, it's like, well, whatever money we're making on the back end of that arcade game should be the same.
Yeah.
Whatever percentage. Like, why would that change just because now it's on digital and selling for $4 as opposed to in an
Charging
arcade where
rental
people are
for
pumping $1,000 in quarters in it a day for 6 months while it's the hot game.
yeah, exactly. So it's a weird it's a
But
weird
that's
really weird spot. Yeah, no, like and you brought this up and it kind of hit me and I went, holy shit, yeah, it's because we were so accustomed to it. Now it's just we've slowly
mhm.
shifted everything for
Right.
ease
I
of
mean,
access.
with Xbox Game Pass, and I'm sure PlayStation is looking to bump up their version of Game Pass, and then if Netflix gets in there, starts doing their stuff,
Yeah.
um,
And that's not
that's
counting
going to
if
be three
Amazon
major
decides to jump in
players.
too. I mean, I wouldn't see
Well,
I
and
couldn't write out Amazon
technically,
doing it too. I mean, yeah,
I
the
mean,
Google
technically,
Stadia,
Apple
but
has that for some mobile games. If you do their Apple Arcade, you pay so much a month. There's a bunch of games you can play
I have
for
that. I'm
free.
guilty. but we got it more for like
But
the storage and the
but
music. But
right, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
but
exactly. It's
that's
so
my point.
much.
Is you're going to have so many major players now with these all you can eat gaming options that again here we are where the concept of owning your own collection of video games, art, music, whatever. I don't know if that's better or worse. I mean, from a consumption standpoint, obviously I love it because I've got all these memberships to streaming sites that I want to watch obscure art film, from the French New Wave.
There you go.
Fire up my Criterion app instead of spending $30 a Blu-ray. If I want to watch wrestling, you know, I can fire up Peacock, go like I am right now, where we finished the first year of Raw and 1993, all the pay-per-views. If I want to watch, you know, um, Troma has their own app. Full Moon, they have their own app with their full film libraries on there.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
at this point, there's no need for me to go out and be like, I'm going to buy all these DVDs. Like, there's just nothing.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, like the cost is where you're at. I mean, realistically,
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, that one French film it costs you $30. If you're spending $10 a month for the Criterion Collection or however much it may be, $10-15, it still covers
Yeah,
2-3 months right there. If you watch
mm-hmm.
one movie every 2 months on there, I mean, it pays for itself over the course of the year versus
Oh,
your
yeah.
DVDs. And then even like and then buying the DVDs, you might watch it once and go, that kind of sucked. What was
Yeah,
I
it's a
thinking? Then you're out
very
$30.
yeah, it's a very odd time right now because you don't really know if this is going to be better for archival purposes or worse. Like right now, it's kind of leaning towards being better, but at the same time, it's like I don't
Right? Then
know.
it's comes
Like
down to
this
the
could
case of
all
what
blow
happens
up
if this all
so
disappears.
quick.
Yeah. If this server crashes or this server, someone it just
Well, and
goes
it's
belly up, what happens to
if
it?
they decide to sign a licensing deal with it, like what happened with WWE Network, this great robust service with great navigation. Now it's all into Peacock, which I can finesse it, but it's still not as good.
No,
And then they're editing stuff now, so it's like, well,
right. And then it comes down to like, all right, I get I'm paying for it, but at the same time, that's not the way it was. Like,
yeah,
and that kind of comes down to too, like with games, like Red Dead Redemption 2 is a great example of this. Over the time from release
well,
until like over the last, I think this just recently, they've changed John Marston's character model almost entirely. Like he doesn't look anything like the original
and
release. They
never
can change
mind.
it to be whatever they want.
Well, and never mind that. Go find Red Dead Revolver to play.
It's
Exactly.
nowhere. I
And
played
that's
it
I
and it
think
was
the
great.
biggest.
I loved it. It was fantastic. It was like then when the first Red Dead Redemption came out, I'm like, oh, they just redid Red Dead Revolver, and then I was like, oh no, it's totally something different. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
it
mean,
was
and that's I think the big thing, the big question mark there is how is it going to go for, like, are they actually going to go in and get these robust back catalog libraries up, or is it just going to be whatever's the new hotness for a while and they'll just rotate?
yeah.
Hard
And then
telling.
when they change it out, with Game Pass, whatever, when that game falls into obscurity and nobody cares, but if you really love it, then they yank it. Do you still have
Mhm.
access to it, or is it poof gone? And then
Right.
obviously you're not
Well,
paying
if
for
it's
it.
if
But
it's streaming, it's poof gone.
yeah. So, but even if you were like,
I
because you
don't
can go
know.
through
We'll
and
see.
download it to your hard drive too, right? So you're not constantly streaming on there, right?
Well, on Game Pass, yes, but like PS Now, it's all streaming.
Yeah, exactly. So and that begs the difference too. Is like, do they give you the option to buy it? Do they give you the option
Well,
to
and
buy
streaming
the
movies,
license?
you're streaming them.
Yeah, unless you download it, unless
So
you're like my mom and download everything to your iPad and then wonder why you're out of space. So,
yeah.
but yeah, no, it's such a weird time that we're in because it's so back and forth. Like yeah, we have all this at our fingertips and we pay minimal for it, but then when we really want to have it, we want to own it. What happens then? Like it's kind of why I think like all the classic Disney VHS tapes are worth so much because people want to have the unaltered, unchanged everything. Like I was talking to my dad about this just recently. Like we had the old Little Mermaid one, the original cover that had the big old
Right.
dick as for the castle stuff. We yard saled it like 5-10 years ago just because it's a VHS tape. Nobody has VHS, and now it's like worth like $1,000 or something, like $2,000, some crazy shit
Yeah.
like that. And me and my
Well,
dad were like,
I mean,
it was nuts.
only time will tell with it. I mean, I'm hoping they'll be more they'll be more diligent with their archiving and making library titles available.
I would hope so,
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
it's super hard to say, but it's and it could be a blessing, it
Yeah.
could be a curse. It could be great that we have all this at our fingertips, but it could be a curse because we look back and go, "What the hell were we thinking? What the hell were we watching?" Like
Yeah,
there's this,
half the stuff I loved isn't available anymore because shifting times.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a weird time. I mean, and again, 10 years from now, it could all just be literally put on a little chip that we just jam into our heads, and then hey, every show from 1995 to 2020 is now uploaded into your brain, or it's what. I don't know. I don't think that'll happen in 10 years. I don't think it'll happen in 20, but we'll see. It's
No, yeah.
it's gonna be one of those weird things, but time will tell. Like same with wrestling. And a year from now, we'll know if the whole Lesnar and Goldberg thing actually happens, or if I'm just blowing smoke because
Yeah, and apparently by end of September we'll know if the other rumors are correct too. So
exactly,
we'll see.
exactly. It'll be a fun time
Yeah,
to see where it's at.
Oh yeah, and that brings us to the end of this episode. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit us up, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff, and we will catch you next time.
Catch you later, guys.